Welcome back to BERLINF.U.N. We are discussing the largest international war currently on this planet, so let's have some fun. Iran, to keep supplying Russia with military equipment, and especially kamikaze drones. Ukraine, to open up around 10,000 new invincibility centers within Ukraine. It just means that people have a place to warm up, to charge their phone, and a place to connect themselves with the internet. Russia's war has at least killed 450 children, injuring at least 863. The real number of children killed and injured due to Russia's war is expected to be higher, as the current count, does not include casualties in Russian occupied territories or where hostilities are ongoing. Scholz, Germany's head of state, says we must continue talking with Russia. There's great danger of a further escalation of Russia's war against Ukraine. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz told Süddeutsche Zeitung, if we don't speak, Russia is even less likely to end the war. He might be right about that. Scholz also says that Germany will not unilaterally transfer tanks to Ukraine next year. Germany will not unilaterally decide to send Western tanks to Ukraine in 2023. Putin will push for Belarus's broader involvement in the war against Ukraine. Russian dictator Vladimir Putin and Belarusian dictator Alexander Lukashenko are expected to discuss further aggression against Ukraine and broader involvement of the Belarusian military in the war. The question arises, how much broader involvement do you want? Because Belarus supplied Russia with 1,940 train carriages full of ammunition. Zelensky demands international tribunal to prosecute all those who provoked war. Good luck, Zelensky. Also Zelensky, more air defense can deprive Russia of its main tool of aggression. President Volodymyr Zelensky called on Ukraine's international partners to provide the country with additional air defense systems in order to deprive Russia of its main instrument of terror, which are missile strikes. Zelensky might be factually correct about this. Kuleba, Ukraine's Minister of Foreign Affairs, calls FIFA's rejection of Zelensky's request to offer a message of peace hypocritical. Britain's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has warned against negotiating a ceasefire too quickly. We must be clear that any unilateral demand by Russia for a ceasefire is completely meaningless in the current context, he said. The Russian army shot down 4 US-made missiles in the airspace over the border with Ukraine, according to Moscow. Oh, interesting. Is this NATO involvement? Can we now finally drop the nuclear bombs? Ukrainian leaders believe that Russian stockpiles of missiles are only enough for a few massive attacks. The Russian mercenary group Wagner uses recruits in Ukraine as cannon fodder, according to British intelligence agencies. Some recruited soldiers were given a smartphone or a tablet that helped show them their predetermined attack route and target. The Ministry of Defense said. For this advance, they receive fire protection, but rarely armored vehicles. Energy giant DTEK says 10-hour-long power outages in Kyiv new reality. Following Russia's overnight drone attacks on Ukraine on December the 19th. 18 out of 23 kamikaze drones downed over Kiev on December 19. Zaluzhny urges Zelensky to sign law increasing consequences for desertion. According to Zaluzhny, the current gaps in legislation which only allow for fines or probationary sentences are unfair and contribute to the loss of personnel, territory, and civilians on the front lines. Poses the question, how much more important is a civilian life than someone who was forced or at least pushed to fight in war, and if that's not a civilian any longer, but a soldier. How badly the woman Dana Schülbe, or the reporter Dana Schülbe, reports about Ukraine in the Tagesspiegel update. She writing about what she thinks is a worthwhile Ukrainian civilian female voice. Together she writes about this Ukrainian woman, the sentences she decides to publish in her widely read newspaper. Together we will pray for peace. Yeah, I really would not lean on Christianity, because in the case it's all made up and you always have to consider that possibility. Praying for peace while staying in a war-torn country, is most likely helping to get you killed. After his trip to the USA, Ukrainian President Zelensky has arrived back at his official residence in the capital, Kiev. Via video, the 44-year-old checked in from his desk this morning with a smile and clenched fist. We are working for victory. Good day to all. Plans to increase the size of Russia's army are likely to pose a major challenge, according to British military experts. It remains unclear how Russia will find the recruits to achieve such an increase in size, the Daily Intelligence update said. Tens of thousands of mercenaries from Russia's Wagner fighting group are stationed in Ukraine, according to the US government. It estimated that 50,000 mercenaries are currently deployed in Ukraine, including 40,000 convicts. White House Communications Director John Kirby, he said. Experts do not currently trust the Russian military to mount a major offensive, but an unspoken threat could change the situation in Ukraine. ISW, the International Institute for the Studies of War, the Kiev Independent, published this. Putin demonstrates that Russia is not interested in reducing its war efforts, despite growing toll on society. Russian dictator Vladimir Putin and Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu presided over a Russian Ministry of Defense collegium in Moscow on December the 21st. US State Secretary Antony Blinken announced $1.85 billion in military aid to Ukraine. The Patriot, in a package that will include a Patriot missile battery and precision-guided bombs for fighter jets on December the 21st. The Patriot missile system would be the most advanced surface-to-air missile system the West has thus far provided to Ukraine. Earlier on December the 16th, which seems like a lot of time ago, Russia's foreign ministry warned of unpredictable consequences if the US sent Patriot missiles to Ukraine, saying the move would be a provocation. The US State Department responded by saying that Russia is single-handedly responsible for any provocations in Ukraine. Intelligence chief: Ukraine will return occupied Crimea by force. Ukraine will liberate the Russian occupied Crimean Peninsula by a combination of military force and diplomacy. Kirill Budanov, head of Ukraine's Intelligence Directorate, told a website, "But nothing will happen without force," said Budanov. Zelensky: Russia has lost everything possible this year. Did he? In an address on December the 25th, President Volodymyr Zelensky said that despite the Kremlin's failed blitzkrieg and defeats on the front line, Russian forces still try to make the remainder of the year dark and difficult. China strengthens ties with Russia. In an address on December the 25th, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi defended Beijing's stance regarding Russia's full-scale war and indicated that it would strengthen its ties with Moscow in the upcoming year. The USA is gifting those protective army gear for Ukraine's self-defense, while China is exporting microelectronics that are needed for flying a plane. So China is not exporting military equipment per se to Russia. They are going to continue their trade ties. So no state party is doing everything they can to restore peace. Doesn't matter who you sell or gift your weapons to, the aggressor or the country that is being aggressed. I mean, I am joking, there's a difference, at least in style. They are not doing everything they can to respect the article of all human rights articles, which is going to be my go-to move now when judging policies, and my go-to human rights article will be Article 1. The contracting parties confirm that genocide, whether committed in time of peace or in time of war, how can genocide be committed in a time of peace, is a crime under international law, which they undertake to prevent and to punish.
Auch das ist Berlin. Auch das ist Berlin. Vernunft. Sagt mir, baue deinen Glauben nicht auf diese Stadt. Wir sind auf wackeligen Beinen gebaut. Ich sagte dir doch Schachmatt.
Alltag und Albtraum, es könnte nur Schein sein. Wolltest du dich umbinden? Wolltest du den Weg noch gehen? Wolltest du zusammenfinden? Von DNA, von Herzen zum Herz, zu Mutationen gehen. Und wenn's ein Trick ist, außer Höhepunkte zählen, steckt der Feminismus fest, denn die Verhütung übernimmt nicht das Gesetz. Karl, vereinen wir, denn dein blinder Fleck ätzt mich nicht weiser als ich. As heartbreak turned into war, I guess, bedauerlich.